Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me, riddle me this, Batman, is the Riddler himself, good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, man, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
You like your nickname this week?
This one's not bad.
Even though it has nothing to do with the episode, but I couldn't think of anything else.
It's in the title.
Yeah, it's in the title. That's as far as it goes. But we literally just finished our last episode that people heard last week, and we're starting this one. And you had a question at the end of last week's episode that could this have possibly been could Kids WB possibly have kind of tied this Pokemon episode into like a superhero theme for that week? And after doing just a little bit of digging, we found out that that was the case, Doug.
Yeah. Just the name of the episode and the fact that it was so vastly different from the Japanese title, and pardon me, the fact that it's airing on Kids WB, and knowing that WB had or has the DC license, and considering where my head immediately went when I heard the title when I watched the episode earlier today. And, you did a little bit of digging while we were in between shows. And you looked up the Saturday lineup for that week. And this episode was preceded by, what was it?
The new Batman and Superman Adventures. And not only was it with that, it was with also Batman Beyond at 9 o'clock. So you had 8 o'clock, the new Batman Superman Adventures. Then you had the first episode of Pokemon. And then you had after Pokemon with the millions of people already watching Kids WB, you also had another Batman Beyond premiere as well.
So, obviously we weren't able to find like the bumpers that they would run like in between the shows. Like when they would scrunch the credits down, they would have like Batman and Pikachu fighting in the margins or whatever.
Yes.
But I'm sure that they ran those as well.
Well, as I was telling you before off air, when I was looking up one of the TV shows, because me and you were kind of like, what is this show Detention that used to come on Kids WB? And when I did a quick Google search of Detention, it had the September 18th lineup in one of the photos on Google. And right there, it had Pikachu karate kicking with Ash pointing out like as if he was demanding. But then it also had a bunch of superheroes around Pikachu. So you had Batman, you had the Joker, you had a few other characters from the other TV shows. It looked like someone from Men in Black, the cartoon. And you had all of that going on in the little snippet.
I low-key forgot about the Men in Black cartoon until you said something.
Me too, dude. Me too. But as much as it was a thing, I was not a fan of the cartoon. And I thought the cartoon was quite boring, to be honest.
I probably turned it off when it was getting ready to start. I said, I've seen my Pokemon.
Yes, exactly.
I've got stuff to do today.
So this week's episode is the start of a two-parter. This week is Riddle Me This, and next week is Volcanic Panic. And both premiered on September 18th. Oh!
Am I still on the air?
Yes, you're on the air, Doug.
Okay, good. My microphone took a dive.
It's all good. But speaking of, Doug, we remember, I'm not going to spoil it because I might use it for next week. but we need two for September 18th. So I think I'm going to take my first choice next week and take my second choice this week.
Oh, my head hurts.
So you're still going first this week, but this episode premiered in Japan on August 13th, 1998, and here in the States, September 18th, 1999, along with its counterpart, Part 2, which also premiered the same day. Now, in Japan, these did not premiere on the same day. These actually was a week apart in Japan. So
Bastard.
August 13th and August 20th was when these premiered in Japan. So
Bastard.
I know. But what me and you came to quickly find out when we were doing our little digging was this date. Well, it's not even holy shit. It's not even just it. Within the next few weeks, we're gonna have to do some digging, Doug, because we have a set of episodes coming out on September 15th on the same day. We also have a set of episodes coming out on the same day on October 2nd pretty soon. So, yeah, they did a lot of twofers as they were trying to catch up on the Kids WB. But this is the first of many episodes that was released on the same day.
Yeah.
But September 18th is a big day in TV. Apparently, a lot of premieres and a lot of things in the movie industry has been released on this day. So, Doug, go ahead and take it away because you are going first this week.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. September, just the month of September in general is like big, typical, like this is like TV premieres, like all the new shows have their pilots, and returning shows are finding their footing with their new seasons. Obviously, with this past like year and a bit has been weird. Obviously, with COVID shutting everything down, so TV was basically just getting out when it could. I'm hopeful that next September will be a return to normalcy.
I kind of think
But
we're getting back into a normalcy, but if you listen to the news enough, apparently we might be taking a step back pretty soon on our mask mandate. So I'm not too happy about that. But
yeah, it's already in effect in California.
yeah, but they're also getting more stimulus checks too. California is its own world out there.
Yeah,
Kind
but
of envious. But.
you know, if you're in the South and you're hearing this, if you're within the sound of my voice, which that's the beauty of the internet, get a fucking shot.
For real. Texas, California, Florida, all of you, please just do your part.
Alabama, Mississippi.
Yes.
Well, not Georgia's okay. Get you a shot. But that concludes the PSA portion of this program. Yes, so on September 18th, 1965, the television show I Dream of Jeannie premieres. And I don't think much has to be said. There's a 2,000-year-old genie washes up on a beach, found by an astronaut. She grants wishes. It's a sitcom, so it's wacky.
She grants more than wishes, I think, off screen.
No. But that was the porno version. Yeah, I mean, it was wacky. It premiered on NBC, and if I could do a really quick Google, boy, ran for 5 seasons. It had, give me an episode total, you fuck. 139 episodes.
Oh, so
Um,
that's a lot for a TV show back then.
30 originally premiered in black and white, but were later colorized, as well as 109 episodes that were specifically in color.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah, we were still in that kind of transitional period between strictly black and white and the introduction of color television.
Okay. Well, good shit. Good shit.
Yeah.
All right. Mine is more on the, well, yours was comical, but mine's a little bit more on the comical side as well, that more of you probably know. But the very first Rush Hour premiered on this day in 1998. Famous line that I love from that movie. Do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Man, nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth. I love Rush Hour. That's my movie right there.
I could tell really hard that you were thinking, like in the back of your head, you're like, should I do the Chinese accent? Should I do the... And I could tell that you didn't want to.
But you can't not do it. So I did it.
So I did.
How did I do? How did it come across?
Well,
We still have a podcast, right?
well,
We're not canceled, right?
I mean, we got through your stuff that you used to do on our other podcast. Okay, so
Facts.
I think we'll be all right.
but but yeah, that movie premiered. I actually just recently watched the first one with my son not too long ago. He has not watched the second or third one yet, and just doing a quick Google search, because me and you kind of was like, well, they're remaking everything these days, so let's see if they're remaking Rush Hour, because I mean, Bad Boys got remade after so long, and come to find out, it's been teased very heavily, but apparently there's no production or interest in the movie in the Hollywood industry.
Bastards.
I know. And it went as far as Jackie Chan actually shot down the rumors no, not last year, in 2019. He shot it down even after Chris Tucker went on a limb and said, it's happening. And I think he was just going out there saying that, hoping that it would catch fire, from what I'm reading, because even IMDb says that the plot is unknown for this movie, and that is all they have on
Chris Tucker needed a pardon me. Chris Tucker needed a paycheck. That's why.
it. He went and spent all his money on his hopes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what else he's been in other than right. I mean, he was in Friday. He was in the Friday series, and I think he was in the. Was he in the fifth? Was that him in the Fifth Element? Yeah. And other than, I mean, I'm sure he's been in some. I mean, look, I'm not gonna. This isn't gonna turn into a Chris Tucker IMDb podcast, for God's sakes. I mean, I'm sure there is already one. There's a podcast for everything.
Ah, yeah, there is.
But
As you're stating this, because I'm actually kind of curious as well as to, um, let's see, the last thing that he was in 2016, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, and then before that was 2012 with Silver Linings Playbook, and
he was
before
in
that,
Silver Linings Playbook. That's right.
and then before that he was in Rush Hour 3. So
So there you go.
so after Rush Hour 3, he had a couple small roles, and currently, it says Rush Hour 4 um, is rumored, and then it also says announced on here. So I'm going to click on this IMDb. Uh, Nothing is on here because it brings me to an IMDb Pro website where they're trying to get me to subscribe, and I'm not going to do that. But
Ain't
when you
nobody got time for that.
nope. But when you click on the actual movie itself, it lists him as a lead actor, but no Jackie Chan, and that it's rumored. So something tells me Chris Tucker made this page himself. He's like, let me go on here and make a Facebook page real quick and see if it catches some wind. So that's all that they have on here in regards to a Rush Hour 4. Very heavily rumored, but no production, it seems like, in Hollywood. So we're going to leave it at that. But the movie has made, from what I was reading, close to $1 billion today. So he's sitting comfortably. I mean, hopefully he had a good Hollywood deal for these movies where he's getting residuals left and right from this movie,
Well,
and not one of
yeah,
these early breaks where they don't get anything.
but I hate to be a bit of a buzzkill, but the residuals aren't as much as you would think they are.
No, they're not.
Like
But
he'll get like a check for like 35 cents every time it airs on TBS or something.
oh, yeah, I've seen actors post their residual checks on Instagram and stuff before.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's funny. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. They're instant classics,
Well, now,
and
wait a minute. Hold on. Finish this podcast.
finish this podcast and then go watch it. And then if you're lucky enough, um, maybe you're listening to this a week early, and maybe part two is already out, so you're hearing on the Patreon next week's episode as well. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm. Yeah.
What do you even say? What is happening?
I'm talking for people on the Patreon and on the free feed at the same time, Doug. I don't know where I'm at. Some people have already listened to this episode, and some people are already in next week's episode because they pay $5 to listen to next week's episode. So it's a
That's
thing, man. It's a thing.
what happens when you take a week off.
I know. So all right, but that's it. So we went through the Kids WB lineup. Actually no, we didn't. The full lineup that day, for anyone that's curious of the Kids WB lineup before we start this week's episode, was at 8 o'clock, the new Batman Superman Adventures, then Pokemon, the episode that we're doing today. 9 o'clock was Batman Beyond. Then 9:30, Men in Black, the series. Then at 10 o'clock is the episode that we're doing next week of Pokemon. And then you had Detention at 10:30. 11 o'clock was the big cartoony show. And 11:30 was the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, which gets played over and over and over again on Boomerang to
Wait,
this day.
when was Men in Black in that lineup?
Was after Batman Beyond and right before Pokemon.
Okay, yeah. So I tuned out for the half an hour, came back because I watched Sylvester and Tweety.
Okay.
I was like, because first when you said that, I thought maybe that was the end because because like I say, I definitely don't remember watching much of Men in Black.
I didn't watch it. I couldn't. If I did watch it, my TV just happened to be on it because Pokemon was on before it, and I think that was a ratings plus for them. Like we need to be on, or no, actually no, because Men in Black came on after. I didn't watch Batman. I could not, for the life of me, get into Batman Beyond. I'm sorry. Out of all Batmans, I could not get into Batman Beyond. What about you?
I I mean, look, it's whatever 20 years ago. I probably watched it. Um, it's Batman,
I
so
tried to get into it.
I mean, it gets points for me. I mean, it's Batman, so I mean, I'm gonna at least check it out. I mean, I feel like you're right. It probably didn't get as much pub as the other shows, but it had its fans,
Yeah.
and I should say has its fans because it's you can work. I mean, you can watch it somewhere. HBO Max,
Yes.
yeah.
So you can watch all of like anything superhero on HBO Max. It's all on there. The only thing I don't like about HBO Max is they take their shit off of there way too quick.
Well, yeah. Well, they've got 17 boxes of other shit they got to put up.
But I mean, I was watching Superman and Lois on there, and then that shit got taken off already. And I feel like HBO,
Because that's still airing, man.
it doesn't matter. You still
Like
put the shit on
there was
there.
there was a new episode tonight.
Do you watch it?
Oh yeah,
Is it good?
yeah, I like it.
I haven't watched an episode yet, but I was going to, and then I saw on there when I was getting ready to start it, it says leaving HBO Max in a couple days. I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, because it's still going.
Yeah. iCarly got renewed on Paramount Plus for a second
Haven't got
season.
into that. I haven't got into that.
That's my shit. I like it because they curse now and they're adults and they go through adult themes and
No McCurdy though, right?
no. She might do the second season. Now,
Fuck.
oh, you good?
I don't know. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Son of a bitch.
That's what happens when the stroke is too big, people.
Well, maybe, but that's what happens when you fucking change your setup.
But
God damn it.
irritated Doug at his best. But yes, we are going to get into the Pokemon episode.
No, that's just going to be this for this week. It's just going to be
I'll wait
going
for
through
Doug.
random actors' IMDb pages and me cussing for an hour and a half.
But yeah, no. I do fuck with iCarly. I do like that show, and I like the more adult version. And she might McCurdy McCarthy might come back for season 2 after she saw season 1. She said the reason she didn't do the remake was because quote unquote iCarly was the most embarrassing time of her life, is what she said. And
Really?
yes, and which was the reason that she did not go to sign up for this. And
Shenanigans.
but I'm sure after she saw the route that they took for iCarly in this new reboot, that hopefully they can get her to come back, because they kind of wrote her off saying that she went out with a biker gang and went to go travel the world. Kind of left it open that she might come back for an episode, because they brought everybody else back for an episode. So why
Right.
not? Why not her? So, but yeah, you ready to jump into this week's episode, Doug?
I hope so.
No more falling pieces.
I can't guarantee that.
So, all right, everybody. So this week starts off a little wonky, and what I mean by wonky is it's kind of all over the place. So you just bear with us as we're reviewing this. But this week, fresh off of last week's episode, it looks like our trio got onto the nearest boat, and they're on their way over to Cinnabar Island so Ash can go after his Volcano Badge. And while on this boat, if you remember playing Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow, you had to surf all the way down to Cinnabar Island so you can fight the volcano gym leader on that island. And that's also where you could do the original glitch of the missing no, where you can get unlimited anything if you had a Master Ball and you needed unlimited of it. That was the way to do it. So we start this week's episode off with our trio on this boat traveling over there, and the narrator specifically says that they have no idea what surprise is over on this island, and oh boy, do they find out what that surprise is, Doug.
Well, yeah, but unfortunately, they find out the surprise before they even touch land.
Well, good old Gary.
Well, he's a prick. Yeah, so Brock kind of gives us an overview about like what's the draw of Cinnabar Island, and Ash is completely laser focused on
The
getting to
gym.
the Cinnabar gym and getting that Volcano Badge. And that's when we hear the familiar tones of old Gary Oak.
I love Gary, like Prick Gary, because Gary's a lot more tameable in the more recent episodes that I'm watching, because he's not Ash's rival anymore.
Oh no! Don't tell me they gave him a face turn.
Well, they did.
Oh fuck!
Well, they kind of had to. And spoiler alert for anyone, but this is seasons down the line. But he takes Professor Rogue's. He basically wants to learn about Pokemon. So after completing a couple of Pokemon leagues, and then he got beat by Ash in one of the Pokemon League battles. He found out that he does not want to be a Pokemon master anymore. That he wants to basically be a professor like his grandfather. So he takes into the shoes of his grandfather in the recent episodes, and that's what he does now.
Meh.
Yeah. It was
Meh.
kind of their way to write him off because you only see Gary now like once or twice a season now. I mean, in this first season, I mean, you see him like almost every 5 or 6 episodes, but now he's even more scarce. So
Gotcha.
so yeah, that's Gary's role in the future, everybody.
The future.
In the future. But yeah, he Gary looks over at Ash and the trio, and he's like, "Who let this loser on a boat?" And Ash is like, "Gary, you're going to Cinnabar Island?" And then we get the riddle me this title screen.
Weird, weird place to put the title screen, if you ask me.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, can you think of any other spot to put it?
No, probably not, but still weird.
Very weird. So from there, we go.
We get kind of a brief overview of all the activities on the boat, and then we get a shot of our hero standing there, and Ash is worried about all the people on the boat because they're probably all trainers,
Yep.
and Gary's on a lounge chair just laughing at him.
He's like, "You have no clue, do you?" He's like, "Pokemon traders haven't gone to Cinnabar Island since my grandfather's days as a trainer." He's like, "These people are all tourists. Cinnabar Island's a resort." And that kind of breaks Ash's like heart. He's like, "A resort?" Because all he wants to do is go there to get a badge. But unbeknownst to us, I mean, what we're gonna find out in just a few episodes. And spoiler alert again, but Gary's just kicking it now. Gary already has all his badges. He has 10 badges as of right now. So Ash is still playing catch up.
Yeah, so yeah, Gary's just having a fucking holiday, and Gary even twists the knife in further. He says Cinnabar Island doesn't even have a gym, and you're
Yeah.
just wasting time as usual. And Ash kind of grits his teeth. And he's like, I'll show you who's fucking wasting time.
Oh,
And
oh, he even throws out the line. I didn't even know that he threw out that line. Yeah, he even says he's already earned way more than enough badges to go into the Pokemon League.
yeah,
So yeah, he's just kicking it now.
so the boat is approaching the island, and once we're off, and we have our seat. We don't see Gary again.
Yeah,
That
we
was
do.
that was well, not in this episode.
Yes, we do.
We do not.
Yes, we
Well,
do.
okay. No,
Right,
where?
the Jigglypuff. When
Oh
they're
fuck! Right. Fuck. Fuck.
when
Fuck.
they're looking for the hotels.
Whatever.
So but yes, Gary will return a little bit later on. But the boat finally docks, and Ash and the gang get off of the boat, and it's at this point that they see it is a resort. It everything is basically all for show, or and if it's not for show, it's a hotel, and they're gonna slowly find out that there's no place for them to stay at this resort because everything's already booked. but they're getting off the boat. But off in the distance in the back is good old Jigglypuff, who was following them on the boat, hiding. And Jigglypuff gets off of the boat, and then that's when we start seeing all the festivities of the city. Doug?
Yeah, we just see that the town is completely packed with people, and Ash is kind of walking around nervous, and they come up on this dude, this hippie dude, and he's got a riddle for him right off the jump.
Yes. He said, "What do you think is hot and cold?" is what he says. And Ash is like, "I know the answer of that. If you lie down in front of an open refrigerator, and you
And
wrap yourself in an electric blanket, you're hot and cold at the same time, right?" And the hippie is like, he's like, "You're totally wrong."
and Misty thinks about it for like 5 seconds, and she goes, "Hot springs are really hot, and tourists think they're pretty cool." And the guy's like, "You got it."
He's like, "See, kids, because of the volcano, there are lots of hot springs here on Cinnabar Island. And every year, more and more tourists come to visit them." So, and then we get a montage of him telling a story about how all the tourists have taken over Cinnabar Island, making this place a tourist trap. And he kind of complains that trainers don't come anymore and that tourists have ruined this island.
He said there was a, pardon me, there was a trainer named Blaine that had a gym, and it was being completely overrun by these tourists who were more concerned about getting pictures and knickknacks than battling Pokemon. And we cut to where the gym is, because the dude had another riddle. He said, because they asked him, they said, "Do you know where the Cinnabar Island gym is?"
And he said it's
He,
right in front of your eyes.
yeah, um, and it's run down, and it's like there's weeds and shit, and that's what I said. Basically, they say Blaine abandoned it because he was tired of battling people that weren't in it for the right reasons. And Ash gets all hot and says, "I'm in it for the right reasons. I'm not interested in pictures. I want a battle. I want badges. I'm Ted."
Yes. So Ash is basically telling this hippie, who we're gonna find out is Blaine's
Oh, for
himself.
goodness sakes. Hold it in
What?
for 10 minutes, for goodness sakes.
People already know the lines of Pokemon, but Blaine basically hands them a postcard because he knows that these are trainers that want to battle him, but he gives it to him, and it has an N on there, the Riddle Inn. And he's like, "How can you run a hotel and then blame tourists for ruining the island? That doesn't make any sense." Misty's like, and Brock looks up and he's like, "He's gone." And they're like, "I wonder where he disappeared to. He sure was weird." But it's at this point now that uh, Brock is basically saying that they need to find a place to crash, and that there's a bunch of souvenir stands, and um, talking about all the tourist traps here. But everyone's hungry, and they need to find a place to crash and to get something to eat. And from here, we get a whole bunch of montages of the gang trying to find different hotels and having no luck. But in between that, we do get a run in with Team Rocket at this time. Doug?
Yeah, and it's, well, I was gonna say it's a blink and you miss it kind of thing, but it almost is, because um, the trio walks by him without paying any attention to him, because they're in a stand selling Meowth shaped cookies.
Yes.
and apparently they're not doing too well. Um, let's see, because they have dialogue is the only other reason. Yeah, basically they're talking. They're not doing well in terms of they haven't even sold one cookie. Um, their shack is a flop, and
They're kind of pissed off because they have all these tourists and everyone around them, but nobody wants any of their stuff.
right, and but in their mind, they're just concerned about being close to the lab where all the super powerful Pokemon are, which
Yes.
we're going to get a glimpse of that lab in due time. But then we're back to our heroes, as you alluded to a few minutes ago,
Trying
going
to
up to
find.
all these hotels and being turned away.
Dude, they went up to a Pokemon Center and you see people sleeping on the floors, on the chairs, on everything. I mean, you're telling me that they couldn't have squeezed in somewhere inside of that Pokemon Center?
Well, and Misty, I think, had a good point as they were walking away from that Pokemon Center. She goes, I think we might have been the only
Ones in the whole
people
center that have actual Pokemon.
that had, which I think should be a requirement.
Yeah.
Like, if you go up to a Pokemon Center, you have to at least
Yeah.
present a Pokemon.
I mean, I guess that might be a way that the Pokemon Center is making money because if there's no Pokemon trainers in town anymore and it's a whole tourist thing, they have to sell rooms.
Well, all right, that's all well and good, but Pokemon trainers should still take priority
Yes.
over looky loos.
But they didn't get there on time, Doug.
Well, that's their fault for having to take the slow ass cruise ship.
But Misty brings up the point of sleeping in sleeping bags, and then that's when the trio comes up to a sign that says hotel, and it's a bunch of hotels that are in the background. So what do? They start going up one by one to all of these hotels, and they get shut down. And Ash is like, "You must be joking." Oh no, the lady's like, "You must be joking. We haven't had a room in weeks." And then they're like, "Let's try this one. No rooms in this hotel, and we're booked up for a year. Try coming back next fall." And then they go to another one. The guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, nothing here." They go to a different one. "Have you tried the hotel across the street?" "Sorry, no vacancies." Once they go across the street, and they're shut down as well, and they're just walking away. They're hungry. They've been walking all day. They're tired, and they're getting ready to walk out of the hotel situation, and they look back, and Ash smells some delicious food. And it's at this point where he starts walking over, and who happens to be inside of where the good food is, Doug?
Freaking Gary and his gaggle of women.
Gary, I low key would love to see like a remake of the Pokemon series with Gary like traveling, because I don't think it would be like PG for kids because
Nah,
Gary seems to be having a freaking ball with these women, but I would love to
nah.
see Pokemon from his point of view.
Well, I would say no to that only because it's kind of the whole like when they were getting ready to do like a Family Guy spinoff, and everybody says, "Oh, it's going to be Quagmire because he's the most interesting." Well, you couldn't really theoretically you couldn't air Quagmire's shenanigans, once a week on a Sunday. So they went with the safer option in Cleveland.
What was Quagmire really an option?
I mean, he was talked about. Everybody said, people started saying, "Oh, Family Guy spinoff," and everybody immediately went to, "Oh, well, it's got to be Quagmire."
So it's at this point in the episode, Gary opens his little door to his hotel room, and he's like, I thought I heard something out here. Hey, look, it's the Sucker Squad. And
Sucker Squad.
I think this is the first time Gary acknowledged Misty and Brock as like being suckers or like making fun of them with following Ash instead of just directing it right at Ash. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that he was actually mean to them.
Even though it was completely indirect. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, he said, Sucker Squad, so implying that he's aware that there's other people with Ash, but it's not like he said, oh, there's that stuck up bitch Misty.
Yeah, exactly. And Gary's like, he's like, so what hotel are you guys staying at? And Ash is like, we're camping out. He's like, too bad you don't have a place like this. And then they pan over and you see all the women, Hitmonlee and an Electabuzz on the inside. And they're all eating some delicious food. It looks like it's all inclusive. Like, honestly, I'd be a little jealous here too.
And he said, so they pan across that table, and Gary says, yeah, and that's just the appetizer.
And they're just all hungry. And he's like, say, I've got an idea. I'll give you my leftovers in a doggy bag if you spin around 3 times and say Pikachu. Man, I'm low key. If I was as hungry as Ash's stomach was making him out to be in this episode, I might have done it.
Fuck it. No, fuck that.
Ash is like, not on your life. I die of hunger first. Man, Ash was pissed, and then his stomach just starts growling again. And he's like, you should have let your stomach do the talking for you.
And Pikachu does the spins and is starting to say Pikachu, and Ash goes, no, you don't.
Because Pikachu's like, fuck it, I'm hungry. That was hilarious. Pikachu just spun around 3 times and he just covered his mouth. He's like, don't you dare say Pikachu.
Don't you dare say the only thing you can.
He's like, we'll never be that desperate that we have to sink to Gary's level to get some food. And everyone's stomach starts growling again, and Gary just starts laughing. I feel bad for Ash right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, in this instance, usually I lean on, well, Ash is just a dick, but Gary being there kind of cancels out his dickishness.
Yeah. And Gary just starts laughing and saying that he's never seen anyone so pathetic. And like he's just throwing out all the shade and all the lines. Like how were Ash and Gary even friends back in the day? I mean, you find out that they grew up together. Like how were these two ever friends? Damn.
Well, you're friends with lots of kids when you're 10.
And
It could have just been a matter of, oh, go and hang out with this kid, because,
for real. But then, Doug, you want to go into the Jigglypuff moment?
Right. So, there's a knock at the door, and Gary says, "Oh, that must be the entertainment." And I open the door, and it's Jigglypuff, and he's holding a little marker microphone, and the trio reacts right away.
And they just run away.
and they book it. But unfortunately, as they're booking it, Togepi gets out of Misty's backpack.
Togepi wants to see the entertainment.
Togepi doesn't. Togepi's met Jigglypuff. Has to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Actually, no. I don't think Jigglypuff has been introduced to Togepi yet, because I think the last time we saw Jigglypuff, wasn't it the prehistoric Pokemon?
And it hadn't hatched yet.
Yeah, it was still in its egg.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, because that's where they found the egg, even.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You might be. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, So Togepi's just interested.
But thankfully Pikachu was on its game and was able to double back and scoop Togepi up before Jigglypuff opened its mouth, so they were able to escape the song radius.
Yes.
And Jigglypuff performs the song with accompaniment from Hitmonlee and Electabuzz, and everybody in Gary's party falls asleep. And Jigglypuff takes the cap off the marker and starts mucking shit up.
Yep. And it's at that point that's the last time that we see Gary and his many women.
Until, I assume, part 2.
No, he's not even in part 2.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, this is the last time. I watched part 2 after I watched this episode earlier today. I couldn't just stop here, so
I did.
I went ahead and I watched part 2 just to get a kick out of it. And yeah, this Gary is not in part 2. They take a different twist in part 2.
Well, shit.
So we finally meet up with our trio, and Ash, Misty, and Brock are kind of panting. They're over by a gate, and
they're hanging out on a picnic table.
Yeah, and they're like, man, we got lucky that we got out of reach of Jigglypuff, and then Brock remembers. He's like, Ash, what about the card that guy gave you? And Ash takes it out, and it has the riddle in, and it says, must be directions to his hotel. And he's like, and they read it off. It says, if you look near the swing, you'll see my hands, or at least a face. And Ash is like, oh, not another riddle. And then Brock looks over at an actual swing, but he doesn't see anybody's hands or face.
And then Big Brain Misty gets it. She's like, there's hands on the face of a clock.
Yes.
And we do a smash cut to the inside of the hotel, and the guy goes, Misty's got it again. Because you're a bunch of dumb guys.
Exactly. And they're like, oh, let's see. Misty has come up with the answer again, and Misty's like, yeah, that was an easy one. And then Blaine's specifically says, he's like, since you got the riddle right, I'll give you the room for free. And Blaine's has a plan, because he knows that these are trainers and that he wants to battle.
Spoilers. Well, I mean, you already did it. So
yeah.
So they're standing there, and then Ash's stomach growls, and
Blaine needs to feed him too.
He goes, I suppose you want dinner. And Ash just goes, just flat as a pancake, just goes, yeah. And then they go, that's the break.
Yep. That was the break. I was about to say. So, the Who's That Pokemon this week is indeed Magmar, which that actually follows this episode. So, I mean, hats off to him. It's not a random one like War Turtle from last week.
Well, as far as we know it is. We haven't seen him yet.
True. But another spoiler. Man, I'm chock full of them.
You're just full of them.
So, we go straight over to a Pokemon gym, and that's where we see a whole bunch of Pokemon just working out inside of the gym, and Team Rocket starts coming over in their balloon. Doug?
Yes. And so then we get the uninterrupted theme song, which it's always nice, especially because but they shouldn't have gotten to do it this week, because they did it. I'm sorry.
They did it twice last week. Yes, Meowth interrupts it, but they did it twice last week.
Yeah, 1.5.
Yes.
The kids mucked up the first one. But then, so Meowth jumps on their heads and then starts dropping bombs on the Pokemon Center, which, out of context, is a terrible sentence. Or not the Pokemon, the gym.
Yes.
And then Blaine's immediately gets a phone call,
That people broke
and
into his gym.
yeah, we find out that the gym has been broken into. It's under attack, and Ash is completely stuffing his face. Blaine's turned around and said, there's trouble at the Pokemon gym," and Ash just says,
And when they arrive, they see Team Rocket, and Ash is like, "Oh, this is easy." So he sends out Pidgeotto to go and attack Team Rocket with Pikachu riding on its back.
which is a scene similar to the intro, not quite that one, but similar.
Yes.
Um, and Team Rocket knows what's going to happen, and Pidgeotto flies up closer to the balloon. Pikachu does a thunder attack.
Pops a
The
big old hole inside of Team Rocket's balloon.
the Pokemon get dropped on the roof. Everybody's happy. And Blaine says, "Well, that act of heroism, I knew there was a word, deserves a big reward. I'm going to let you in on a little secret." And he said, "Blaine built a gym that tourists never see."
Yes. And from here, they shoot over to a hot springs.
Well, first of all, you get another riddle, and Ash has it because Blaine goes, he put it in a place where firefighters never win, and Ash just hits the ground. He says, "Not another riddle." But yeah, then they're in the hot springs, and it's separated. So Ash and Brock are on one side, and Misty's all on her lonesome on the other. And Ash is relaxing, but at the same time, they're kind of thinking and thinking and thinking about the riddle, and Pikachu's just swimming, having a gay old time.
And then Togepi goes and I blame Misty um for not watching Togepi, but Togepi just goes over and just starts jumping on top of this Gyarados. Are these characters naked in this spring?
Well, Misty's got a towel on.
Yeah, she has a towel on, but nothing underneath. And I mean, I can't speak for the guys, but Togepi just starts jumping on this Gyarados, brings the lever down, and the lever brings the fence down that's blocking the girls and the guys section of the springs. And Misty just looks over at the guys because she's just in a towel. And it's at this point where she just lets out a huge scream. And then that's that scene right there.
I've seen her in a bathing suit, for God's sake.
But she's naked.
Well, but she's more covered in the towel than she would have been in a bathing suit.
That doesn't matter. But yeah,
But no, I wouldn't think that the guys were naked, because if that hot spring is as hot as it's supposed to be, I don't want to be cooking my eggs.
Yeah, for real.
Or my sausage, for that matter.
So, but yeah, Togepi hit the switch, moves a boulder. The boulder then breaks the fence that was dividing the sides, but also did with it dividing the fence also leads an opening, a secret passage that the trainers then get curious and start walking in.
Yeah, well, Misty has an observation. She goes, "It's getting kind of hot in here," and I'm sitting there going, "No shit." Because
Yes.
you were just in a hot spring, so you're probably not cooled down, but that's neither here nor there. And then Ash is dumb.
Well, not Ash touched a door, and I mean, I'm not going to call him dumb because
I am.
I probably would have done the same thing.
It's a metal door.
It's a metal door, but who would sit there and have a hot ass door? I mean, they don't know that they're inside of a volcano.
Somebody that doesn't want their gym to be found.
Yes. So it's at this point where Ash touches the door, burns his hand as he touches this door, but then the door ends up opening automatically. And they look inside, and it's a battle stadium that's sitting right over an active volcano. So I want to know how he was able to build this shit inside of this volcano. Maybe he used his Pokemon. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would say that Magmar had a decent hand in it
Yeah.
because he could probably move around in the lava with no effect because he basically is lava.
So, all right, Doug, I'm gonna hand this part of the scene over to you. So they just entered the battle stadium, and Blaine's is staring right over at him.
Yeah, well, so Misty kind of hits us over the head with the riddle, and we see the hippie dude is standing there, and they're kind of confused. He's got another riddle. He said, "It's not a hat, and you only wear it when you've already lost it." And Ash goes, "Well, it's an umbrella." Brock kind of basically calls him an idiot
Yeah.
for having for having a guess, which is kind of rude. Because he says umbrella, and Misty once again says
Guesses
it's
it.
a wig
A wig
because
isn't a hat, but it keeps your head warm.
and you only wear it when you've already lost your hair. And because she nailed it, Blaine's takes off his makeup and reveals himself to be the old man gym leader.
Yes. So, and we finally get to see Blaine's in all of his glory. He is the gym master, and Ash is like, man, you sure fooled me. And then Blaine's challenges Ash to a 3-on-3 Pokemon gym battle inside of the volcano. And Brock tells Ash to use his water Pokemon. And he's like, okay, that's easy. So they begin their battle. Of course, Blaine's first Pokemon is Ninetales, and Ash chooses Squirtle. And then
Not
this
bef- not before we get an immediate appearance
Dexter.
from Dex. Dexter gets a workout here, boy.
Yes, he does.
So we find out that Ninetales is the evolved form of Vulpix, and hell, what else do we find out?
It says Ninetales is the evolved form of the fire Pokemon Vulpix, and that's it.
That's
And
it?
yep, and Ash is like, I knew he'd choose
Fuck
a
me.
fire type Pokemon. Big mistake. And then he sends out Squirtle. Squirtle pops into the mix, and immediately Ninetales does Fire Spin. Brock says that that's the strongest attack that Ninetales has, and Squirtle goes and hides inside of his shell and immediately gets. Oh no,
Well, he
uh,
tries water gun,
he
but the
tries
water
water
gun,
gun, but the fire comes back and it's too much for Squirtle, and it fries him inside of his shell, and he's immediately knocked out.
yeah, in terms of the Pokemon game, Squirtle used water gun and it was super ineffective.
Yep, ineffective, and also with the Pokemon game, it was a knockout.
Yeah, that would have been a one hit knockout because even if that Squirtle is a high level, you're not gonna beat a fire spin with a water gun.
No. So, and Blaine's educates Ash by saying choosing a Pokemon is more than selecting the right type. It takes wisdom to win a gym battle. And then Ash is like,
Or
then I'll,
pity.
Yeah, or pity, as we've seen in the past. And the Ash is like, then I'll fight fire with fire. I'm counting on you, so give it your best shot. Charizard, I choose you. And Charizard just gave no fucks, gave no shits. Blaine's returns his Ninetales, thinking he's about to have a badass battle with a Charizard. He sends out Rhydon, and freaking Charizard goes and flies over to a rock and goes to sleep. But
That is not his job.
yeah, and we get another Dexter entry with Rhydon. Rhydon is the evolved form of Rhyhorn.
Right.
It is known as a drill Pokemon. Its large horn gives it formidable attack power.
So how hard would that have been to give me one more sentence on Ninetales? What the fuck? And we get like 2 sentences on Magmar.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And Blaine's is like, what the fuck is going on here? I thought I'm about to have a nice battle with a Charizard, and Charizard just yawns, scratches his neck, and then Brock is like, this is embarrassing. And whatchamacallit, Blaine says Rhydon or Charizard is in way over his head. He's like, Rhydon horn drill. And Rhydon can't even do it because Charizard flies away.
So, and Blaine says because Charizard left the battle, he forfeits. So
Rhydon is the winner.
Ash is already 0-2 down and gets on one knee and says, Pikachu, it's all up to you.
And Blaine's is cocky. He's like, your little Pikachu is no match against my Rhydon. And Ash is like, forget it. Pikachu, max power, which I didn't know was a move. But and Rhydon is told to do Fury Attack. And it's trying to poke the mess out of Pikachu. And Blaine gets impressed. He's like, that's pretty impressive here. And Ash's like, Pikachu, Thunderbolt now. And Pikachu does Thunderbolt. It barely phases Rhydon. Rhydon gets a little itch out of it, but that's about it. And Blaine's educates Ash again and says electric attacks will not work on his Rhydon, which is true.
Which I think Ash knew, because I think we had that whole discussion with Onyx versus Pikachu.
Yes.
But then Ash gets a tip from Brock, which is bullshit. He wouldn't get it in a regular battle if he didn't have 2 traveling companions with him.
Exactly. But
Brock says, aim for the horn.
Which is bullshit, because you can't do that in the game. You can't aim for just a body part and just obliterate. Like, I wish I could in Pokemon, but you can't. Right. And he does Thunderbolt on the horn, and Brock says Rhydon's horn acts like a lightning rod, and it sends electricity through the rest of Rhydon's body, which the rest of his body is not affected unless it goes into his body. And Rhydon got a nice little charge out of that, and Rhydon lost. He was knocked out.
Takes the fall.
And it's at this point now that, let's see, so we've had Ninetales and we've had Rhydon. So now it's time for his third Pokemon, which is Magmar. And Magmar comes into the mix from out of the lava. Doug?
Yeah, not in a Pokeball, so that was kind of cool.
Yes.
He just rises out of the magma that Blaine kind of summoned the lava, and then Magmar is floating there, and old Dexter gets gets another workout. And says Magmar's body's like a furnace.
It's a Spitfire Pokemon.
Magmar's basically a living inferno and can only be discovered around active volcanoes.
Yes. And Magmar, they drew Magmar like a beast over Pikachu. And Blaine's tells Magmar to do Fire Punch. And
and
Pikachu's
Pikachu's bobbing and weaving with quickness, and um, Blaine's is impressed, but then Magmar gets one glancing blow on one of Pikachu's cheeks and gets enough distance, and Ash says, use, which one was it? Thunderbolt?
uh
Thunder.
he said Magmar he Thunderbolt. So
Thunderbolt.
and it barely phases Magmar because he's using a move called Air Lance, which again is not a move in the game. And Brock educates Ash and says, "Well, Magmar's heat heats the air at such a high temperature that reflects electric attacks," which is bullshit.
Well, it's bull. I mean, it makes sense when it's explained, and it would have been nice to be put in the game. But so Magmar is basically using Pikachu's energy against it. He's coming at him with more Fire Punch. Pikachu's backed up literally um, to the edge of the battle area, and it looks like Magachu. Looks like Magmar is queuing up for one final attack, and he spits a. Did they name that one?
Yes. Let me see. I believe it's Fire Blast. Let's see. Magmar Go. Let's see. What is that attack?
I mean,
Uh,
we know. I mean, we know it from the game, but
I believe it's Fire. Oh no, they don't name it. He just says Magmar Go, and Magmar does his attack. Pikachu is looking off, and we get the narrator going, and so it's Pikachu versus the volcano. Will Pikachu be turned into the world's cutest lava lamp? Find out on our next fiery episode. And that is it.
that is it. And they could have just said, "Find out in a half an hour."
Yes.
Or yeah.
But remember, this episode of Pokemon was a week out in Japan.
Well, yes, but the translation wasn't.
No, it wasn't. So you're right. But yeah, that was how they ended this week's episode. So we end on a cliffhanger with Pikachu standing right next to the edge of the volcano. It looks like a fire blast is on its way over to Pikachu. And we have no idea what's going to happen next. You're going to have to tune in next week to find out.
Want to tune in? Want to
but
know now?
but we got another Pokemon jukebox, and this one is called "What Kind of Pokemon Are You?" It's like, "What kind of Pokemon are you?" And it has a dancing Drowsy. And again, we go through a lot of old episodes in this montage of Pokemon clips. You get the montage of the Gengar from a future episode. You get a couple old ones with Diglett. You get a Marowak. You got a future episode where Pikachu is dancing with a Raichu. And yeah, and then you get a clip from the very first episode with Misty in it where she's scared of a Caterpie. And the episode where Ash caught his Pidgeotto. And then with Muck. So this one has a lot of old clips in it, tied in with a few new ones.
You also get.
Oh, you get a
Gotta,
Pokemon League battle. I'm sorry.
well, you get a shot of Mewtwo.
Yes. Oh, that's
Um,
actually coming up in a how many episodes? Give me 1 second, Doug. Because I mentioned a few weeks ago that we're going to be tying some loose ends, and episode 63 is where we're going to get that. We're going to get more of the Mewtwo story.
okay.
So it's going to have a couple scenes from the Pokemon movie. We're actually going to get the the scene with Gary battling the Mewtwo in that episode as well, that we saw in the movie that they did not play for us.
Right.
So we get that in that episode as well. And then unbeknownst to me, just going over my DVDs the other day, Doug, and I had told you, we can you alluded to possibly doing it as our Christmas special this year, like we had a Christmas special last year. And there's a TV special called Mewtwo Returns that kind of takes place in the Orange region, with Ash, and he actually gets to meet Mewtwo and Mew again in that 1 hour episode. So, and it's really good. So once you watch it, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But that'll be a nice thing to do for the Christmas episode, Doug.
Yeah, and it was interesting that you brought it up because I came across it on a couple occasions while I was hunting for a subtitle link for the first movie.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh. And, I did a quick Google, and then, yeah, basically, like you said, it follows right from the movie. It's an hour long. So it'll be maybe a little longer than a traditional episode. I mean, obviously, we can't account for if we go on tangent or something.
Yeah. The episode itself, I believe the runtime was just about an hour for that. So
yeah, because I looked it up I found a link, just so I can play it. I mean, like you said, the issue would come down to subtitles for when we're recording, so we're not trying to pull stuff out of our ass. But it's available, like, online, like, just to watch.
So that'll be nice to watch. I can't wait to watch it. So I'll just throw that out there. I did find a Bulbapedia that has the for every single episode, there's a section on here for a list of who's that Pokemon. So that would have been helpful a long time ago.
Well,
But we definitely have it. It looks like they were basically the same from the Japanese version to the American version. Let's see. For the most part, Snow Way Out in Japanese had Pidgeotto. If we had Muck. Holiday Hijinks, they had Jinx, and then we had Pidgeotto. But other than that, we basically have the same Who's That Pokemon for the English and Japanese version, outside of a few mix-ups. And the Japanese version is a little harder. I'm looking at one right now for episode 56, and they had Jigglypuff, and all you could see is the top of Jigglypuff's head from that episode that we watched, the quiz episode.
Oh,
so they did it to them.
They're like, how are we supposed to know that this is a Jigglypuff?
So, but yeah, that's that. I know everybody, if you're already a week ahead, wants to get into next week's episode to find out what's happening. So, do you have anything else to add, Doug?
I don't, but I gotta find out if Pikachu is gonna become a lava lamp.
I know. So, too bad we're not recording that episode tonight. But
what do you mean too bad? It's goddamn midnight.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So, all right. But say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And you don't want to miss next week's episode because it's part 2 of a 2-parter, everybody. And it's called Volcanic Panic, or translated from Japanese, Decisive Battle, Guren Gym. So have a good night, everyone, and see you next week.